the alternative. I find you sometimes you get the sort of the amphitheater type things when you're,
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I think this is the first panel session of the event, so thank you for coming along and listening. It's my great pleasure to be joined by 5 execs from some of the leading players in the video collaboration space today. We're going to just chat through some of the trends that we're seeing in the market today, and more importantly, what's going to be happening in this market in the next 3 to 5 years to give you a sense from where the future lies for video collaboration. So maybe first of all, we can just introduce everyone. To my left, first of all, this is Richard Middleton, Regional Account Manager for Lifesize. Next, we've got James Campanini from Blue Jeans, the VP of General Manager for EMEA.
Yep.
And then I think some of you might have just seen John Underkoffler from Oblong, CEO, who's just been speaking about the future of work. So welcome, John.
Thank you.
We've got Mark Summerson, VP Managed Services EMEA for Vidyo. And finally, last but not least, Tim Stone on the end, VP of Marketing EMEA for Polycom. So I think some of you have probably been following the election debates. It's going to be very similar here, less about immigration maybe, a little bit less on nuclear deterrent, but we've got 5 people with lots to say here, so I'm going to keep it ticking along hopefully quite quickly. I might have to cut some of you off, but apologies for that in advance. But just a very brief intro. I think all of us have seen video is playing a really key role in the enterprise now and in small business as well. Gone are the days where we've got shaky video, poor user controls. It's really becoming embedded in the organization now. And we've seen big shifts as well away from big multi-room, boardroom systems to the desktop and now to mobile. We've seen shifts from on-premise going out right onto the cloud-based solutions as well. And we've got good representation across everything here, I think. So I'd like to start, and we're going to keep away from the sales pitches today, I think we've said, but I think if we could start just with a 20-second elevator pitch from each of you, just so we've got a bit of context from where you sit in the market today. I'd also like to understand in that introductory, where you see things heading at the moment. What are the key challenges and the key opportunities in the video collaboration space? Maybe I can start with Richard to my left.
Oh, thank you. Is that working? Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Thank you for starting me off, Adrian. Yeah, so as Adrian said kindly, I'm Richard Middleton from Lifesize. So currently we're in quite a unique position at Lifesize within the marketplace at the moment. So we have our traditional video conferencing offering with on-premise infrastructure and room-based endpoints. But where we've seen the real growth in our business over the last 10 months has been with the introduction of our cloud service. Unlike a lot of the other cloud services that are out there at the moment, we're not just providing a space for people to dial into. It's all about having connected devices. In the same way that you have apps on your smartphones or on your tablets, and you have access to all of those apps from wherever you are, we want to give end users that same empowerment and the same ability from their meeting room without having to phone up an IT manager or go to a portal and log on to create a conference. It's very much a user-enabled service. And that's what we're seeing the big demand for at the moment within the industry, is organizations want to move away from having to manage this themselves and enable the end users to just walk into a meeting room or go to a huddle space and have their meeting and then get on with the rest of the day. It shouldn't be a big event that it has been in the past.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping it short. James.
So that's short. It was what I'm aiming for, so it's a good couple of minutes.
Yeah, there we go.
So James Campanini, I'm the VP for Blue Jeans Network in EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa. Been in the company for about 18 months. Blue Jeans, for anyone who doesn't know, is a cloud-based video conferencing solution. It's purely software. It's run on our data centers, and it's our software. Our reason for being is basically to make more people use video in their daily conversations, in their daily communication. So really don't care about the hardware. I really couldn't care less whose hardware you buy. All our job is to do is try to connect you to anyone else. So really, we're just talking about how to connect people on video. So we see a massive growth in that marketplace. We're currently kind of the market leader, I guess. We do about 600 million minutes of video conferencing in our cloud on our thousands of customers across every continent on the globe. So massive move into mobility right now. Obviously, all the endpoints from our friends at Polycom and Cisco, Cisco aren't here. But any endpoint you like, connecting with anything from iPads to phones to desktops, however you want to go. That's Blue Jeans.
Sure.
I'm John Underkoffler, the CEO of Oblong Industries. We offer a product called Mezzanine, which we intend as the future of collaboration. And we mean collaboration in the very largest sense. We mean room-scale collaboration that multiple people can partake of at the same time, that blends together all of the tools and the devices that they have already. And really the key to understanding what that is and what it has to be is the idea of a completely fluid UI that works across multiple screens on multiple walls. So you don't want to be limited by the physical boundaries of the displays, which is the world we live in today. You want as many pixels as may be available in the room to be instantly kind of accessible to your data, your communications, your documents, and your work, and for that to be the case not just for one person at a time, but for everyone in the room at the same time. And then you start joining mezzanine rooms together across distance. And really what we're trying to do is to bring the real world back into the realm of the digital world. I think you asked for a major challenge as well.
Yes.
I think the major challenge that we all face is the kind of mediocrity of good enough, right? And the way out of that is courage. So I hope that the market exhibits real courage and doesn't feel that it needs to take tiny steps forward at each increment. Otherwise, we never get anywhere.
Mark, to you.
Okay, thank you. So firstly, I hope you can hear me. My voice is on its last legs from the remnants of a cold. But I've heard from my colleagues here, and I don't think Tim will be any different, talking about the changes of video inside really an information worker type environment. And I could talk about that, but I'd obviously like to make video stand out a little bit more. What we're seeing significant growth in right now is that because we're a software company, you know, we're all about distributed architectures, big scale, high quality over less predictable networks. And with that with that opens up lots more opportunities in spaces where video wouldn't fit before. So the big growth we're seeing right now is in workflows that always wanted video but couldn't afford it or couldn't make it work previously. And specifically, I'm talking about business to consumer. So whether that be in healthcare, whether it be in finance, whether it be people wanting sort of retail advisory services through a website, there's lots of those opportunities coming up to us now, and that's really where we're seeing huge growth right now and expect to see it over the next 12 months.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Tim Stone from Polycom. Probably a lot of you have heard of Polycom, but for those who haven't, we're a 25-year-old company this year. And we're very famous for the conference phones that you'll see in most office desktops, conference rooms. We've got about a third of the video endpoint market and about a quarter of the video infrastructure in the market. The company mission really is to unleash the power of human collaboration. And that's really about connecting people across the globe, using video communications. And the big challenges and opportunities that we see in the market that will affect everyone is the rise in mobile. So we've seen huge growth in mobile apps using video. And the other big trend is, of course, the move away from hardware into software-based infrastructure. So virtualized environments and cloud-based video.
Maybe I can stay with you just briefly on the cloud side of things, that transition from hardware-based to cloud. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits in terms of scalability, flexibility, sometimes total cost of ownership, not always. What do you see as some of the big challenges of migrating some of your customers across to the cloud? I mean, security aspects, for example. What are the key things that are holding people back today?
Yeah, well, I think there's been a lot of research around cloud, and I mean, the majority of the market today still is kind of on-premise hardware-based, and we are seeing a big shift towards VMware, Hyper-V type environments for our software. We've migrated it all to the software now. But you know, the main challenge is really, if you look at the analyst surveys that come out, it's around security, fears about compliance, regulation. You know, where is your data sitting? We also see issues around integration with the rest of the video infrastructure and the rest of the IT systems. So challenges there. And then, I think also looking at the costings as well. You need to do a really detailed cost analysis to see if it is going to work out cheaper in the long run. So we still find a lot of larger enterprises find it more cost effective to keep technology on-premise, albeit in more of a cloud configuration in a private cloud.
Okay. James, maybe I can come to you. You're obviously Blue Jeans born in the cloud. How do you attract people across? What are the key things which attract people to cloud-based solutions?
Yeah, I think I think cloud is just happening. I mean, cloud is happening, and we can hear the hardware vendors often talking about hybrid because it keeps you buying hardware, and it will keep your service providers buying hardware to sell services off. But Cloud offers something which is pretty unique in terms of ubiquity of access. It means that you can just go on and use. And you talked about courage, actually. I thought it was a really important thing. Actually, we're seeing CEOs who will have meetings on their iPads in Costa, and they have got access to a telepresence room system. But they choose to use video on their iPad in Costa because they know who's overhearing them anyway, and they know what they're talking about isn't that sensitive. We can add encryption, absolutely encryption from whatever endpoint wants to dial in. If it's got encryption, it's still encrypted within a BlueJeans cloud. But what we're seeing people want to use video is they just want to use it more and more. So if you happen to be sitting in an airport lounge and you only have your iPhone, actually you will see people in the lounges now actually just staring into their phones and talking, because they will have video communication. That is really only accessible if you can connect to the internet, and that means the cloud. So anywhere you can get some bandwidth is whether you can touch a cloud. Now with the advent of 4G and even 5G coming up, I guess you don't even need a wireless connectivity. You really can do a pretty solid video meeting from my iPhone on a 4G network back into a huge $100,000 end system from Polycom. And that will absolutely work fine, and people will use it today. So the conversation about cloud, I think, is now up to the regulator. The regulator's got to make people feel comfortable about going to the cloud. But we can't enforce the users to use a particular endpoint or a particular connection mechanism. We must be just saying, come and talk to me on video, and it's up to you how you get there. Come and meet me on video, and we've got to let that just go. And that's what we're seeing from our customers. And as I said, 600 million minutes of it. Customers are going that way now. We're probably more struggling with that in EMEA just because of the regulatory environment around cloud and people's general feeling about their country boundaries and all the rest of it. But that's a regulatory issue around all of cloud-based services. You would never think today where your iPhone was picking up its mail from. You just want to get your mail wherever you're sitting on, whatever device you're sitting next to. So technology has just moved to the cloud, and video is the next one that's moving.
I suppose going on to the mobility side of things, maybe Richard, I could come to you. That's the other big shift, of course, going from desktop down to mobile, making it something we can access anywhere, anytime. What challenges does that bring, though, to an organisation such as yours, to actually make sure that happens in a seamless way? I think John touched on the fact that we need this kind of seamless experience across all devices. Everyone can have a similar experience and have an input, regardless of how they're actually getting into a meeting.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that you need really as an organisation. I think first of all is, ideally you want a common user interface. You want the experience, although it's not going to be identical, you want the experience and the process an end user has to go through in a meeting room to be almost the same, or at least familiar when they go to their smart device, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a PC or a smartphone. And second to that, and James made a really good point, to really have that truly mobile application, it needs to be a cloud-based service. Now, there are some issues around that. Cloud isn't for every organisation. There are certain security levels that organisations need to meet on closed networks, especially in central government and those sorts of organisations. But for the vast majority of people, cloud is very viable. And what we're seeing for a lot of organisations now, traditional larger organisations where they've already got video conferencing within their network, they've already purchased hardware-based or software-based infrastructure, they're now looking to the cloud as well to provide that mobility element. Because even just from a pure networking perspective, when they've got remote workers working in either home offices or from Costa Coffee, as we mentioned, they don't want all of that traffic coming back into their network as well. If that can be hosted elsewhere, as long as it's secure, as long as it's safe, then yeah, I think that's the real big key thing. And secondly is supporting as many devices as possible. There are a couple of devices out there that video just doesn't work particularly well on. But ensuring for us as a vendor is ensuring that we support as many different mobile devices out there. We can't dictate to somebody that you have to use either the latest Samsung or the latest iPhone. You need to be able to support as many different platforms as possible.
Okay. John, maybe I can come to you on a similar point. Do you agree? Does this resonate with you as well?
It does. I think we need to consider that mobile devices won't always be the endpoint, however. Right? So, because when you use a mobile device, you're essentially limiting your cognition. You're limiting the kind of interaction space, the space of understanding, to the physical size of that device. And of course, the mobility aspect is phenomenal, but you are taking a hit. There's a liability to do just with the sheer amount of visual information that can be conveyed at any one time. So I think what we need to do is to understand the mobile device as the mobile device in the way that we kind of construe it today, but we need to add an additional meaning, which is the mobile device as control surface or as portal into a larger interaction space. So into a space that might have a whole bunch of high-def screens or 4K screens. And what we need, of course, is a new layer of UI on the mobile device that conforms to people's expectations about mobile UIs and so forth. But that essentially is allowing you to kind of transduce your local action into the larger space, and ideally to do it in a collaborative way. So I think we'll see mobile devices come to be understood in two parallel senses, and that actually makes them much more powerful. The last thing we want to do is throw these away.
Absolutely. Mark, I'd like to kind of pick up on one of your points you raised in your introduction, and that's beyond the kind of information worker that we talk about a lot and the benefits in productivity and efficiency, mobile and cloud playing a big role there. You were mentioning that sort of outward-facing side of things, so the omni-channel world, and actually be able to communicate with your customer or your end user better. Can you maybe give some examples of some of the trends you've seen there?
Yeah, sure. So I think the really important thing there is that video is a component of a customer experience in those cases. So you talk about the importance of user experience, you talk about the importance of different types of devices, you talk about how you deliver that from the cloud or hybrid or wherever. All of the above is correct in those cases, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to present your brand in extremely high quality fashion to your customer. If you're say you're offering mortgage advice and you want somebody coming in from home or from a tablet, you want them to have extremely high quality picture as part of the experience with the advisor. If they have that, that's the brand that they're experiencing. And it's really, really important that then is just part of the overall the overall experience as well, because the bank, for example, may want to say, well, actually, this is a website. Part of that is going to be the video experience. Part of it is going to be contextual information about their latest, greatest mortgage products. And giving our customers the ability to take that video that's understanding what all the endpoints are, that's understanding how best to deliver the quality video and wrap it up inside something that actually doesn't look like a video endpoint, it becomes much, much more part of that workflow. And that's why people are coming to us right now. It's because it just becomes one of the many functions inside an existing workflow experience that they're trying to push out to their customer base. Okay.
Tim, is this something that you're looking at Polycom as well? They're more of the end user of the services and pushing out to customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen some amazing sort of transformation in certain industries, and you know, a great one is healthcare, where you know, a lot of the NHS trusts around the UK and across Europe are delivering remote healthcare now using tablets, mobile devices, and that will become more and more pervasive as future trends such as WebRTC, you know, the new standard that's emerging that we're supporting, will enable anybody to have high-definition video just through a standard browser. So we've got lots of sort of case studies on our website around how we're delivering breastfeeding clinics, long-term diabetic care, some news stories that we've published around you know, throat diagnosis, etc., over video. So the other thing that's just to pick up on the point about mobility, if you look at the market and the industry, what we've actually seen over this year, for example, is this trend of mobility has actually driven the amount of room systems that are being deployed. So, you know, far from room-based video being dead and buried, what's happening is that video is becoming the lowest common denominator for many organizations. So let's say 5 years ago, you would default to a conference call, and now your remote employees have got video, so you default to a video call. And many companies, our customers, are actually doing that, and they've got many, many tens of thousands of mobile endpoints, and they're connecting into room-based systems, sharing content between the two, or a Microsoft Link environment. So we're actually seeing it, mobility driving the whole market up.
Can I come on to that? Because I'm interested, and you know, we said it will make it a little bit feisty, but that's very typical in the industry to say, you know, to talk about cloud, and you know, it's all fantastic, and everyone's going cloud, and wonderful Polycom, and Tim knows I love him, but you know, again, straight back onto hardware endpoints again, and the whole concept is this is changing. The question was, how can you get other applications to say, well, I want to use the benefit of video. So let's just take BlueJeans, for instance, as an engine room for video. That's what it is. It's just a software engine that does video communication. Well, why not take an application like Salesforce.com and be able to launch a video call from them without Salesforce actually needing to invest in a massive, great video infrastructure? Why not just use APIs and leverage a BlueJeans platform or a cloud-based platform to use as video conferencing platform, so you don't have to do that initial investment? And that's where we see a massive growth in our market, as we're talking to more and more companies who are saying, well, we don't want to invest in that video. That's something you've done and we've done well. Why don't we start using an API to start to control or use or schedule on top of the cloud application themselves? Gone are the conversations about, you know, where are the room systems and how big, how small are room systems. I've seen some beautiful room systems at ISE a couple of months ago over in Amsterdam. And it's all kind of irrelevant. When I sit at home on my iMac, and that's the best room system you can get, right? It's just fantastic. A great Logitech camera, because it's slightly better than the Apple camera, but it's a brilliant endpoint, and I'm really happy to use that. I use my iPad, and I use my Cisco room systems and my Polycom room system in the office. So the point is, it doesn't matter about the endpoint. It really is about getting people to use video, because you get an awful lot more communication from video. And I think what you were saying is, I think you're right, actually. I think it goes further than that. At the moment, I think we're just trying to get people off the phone and realizing that 90% of communication is non-verbal. So we're getting them off the phone, we're getting them into video, and I think you're right. I think the next step is, how do I share more? How do I bring in more things around me? How do I get a more one-to-one experience, even though I'm remote? So the more I can do that, and maybe it's a user interface, maybe it's a build-on what we've got today, but the more I can encourage people to use video today, the more likely I can get there quicker. So sorry to interrupt you, Tim.
I'd actually like to take that further as well, James, because I don't even think it's moving away from the endpoint conversation. I think it's actually moving away from the technology conversation. So I was with a bank just a couple of weeks ago, and they'd been running a trial around mortgage advisory services. And the trial they'd been running involved getting somebody in off the street, walk them into a little room where there's a video conferencing suite. They sit them down there and they have a video conference. And the person who was speaking to me was a designer. Her background was interior design and customer experience design. Because I don't want to do that. People don't want to come in here and have a video conference. People want to come in here because they want to buy a house. I want to help them buy a house. I'm not going to sit them in front of something that looks like it should be in a boardroom. I want them to take part in an experience that helps them buy that house. So I think the quicker we can switch to a conversation around what our customers and what their customers are trying to achieve, and putting the technology in the context of that, rather than putting technology in the way of that, then I think the video as a whole, as an industry, will become a lot more successful.
We've only got a few minutes left, so I'd just like to get a view of the future now, really. I think maybe we can bring the interface side of things into the conversation, how that might change the next few years. And John, you've probably got some thoughts on some innovative ways of changing the interface to make sure people are engaging with these tools more. Maybe we can start with you. Just a view, what's this market going to look like in 3 to 5 years? How are the solutions likely to develop, and what will the end user actually see in front of them?
Well, I think the biggest success that we could see in 3 to 5 years is a kind of eradication of boundaries, integration that happens at a level so deep that you don't have the kind of striations that you have today. Right now, I'm using a spreadsheet. Oh, now I'm using video, right? It's a cognitive switch. It's a kind of mental leap that's jarring and unnecessary. So if video and many other facilities are kind of an assumed part of every experience, that at any moment there's the possibility of kind of face-to-face collaboration or work, distance work collaboration. If you can kind of fluidly move between those modes and correctly expect, because this is about human expectations, which is about muscle memory, which is about what people can do without having to think about it. If you correctly expect that any of those modes might be engaged at any moment, then we've really, really made progress. And from where I sit, of course, all of that depends very heavily on a good UI, on a proper UI, and it's going to have to be a UI that teaches people a few new things along the way, but it'll be worth learning.
Richard, maybe I can come to you. Where do you see things heading?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already started to see it really with the transition into more flexible working, moving out of the boardroom. The boardroom's still really important. Having hardware is still a really important element of it, but being able to offer video in more spaces, just what's the point of having one person sat in a 20-seater boardroom having a video conference when they can have almost the same experience from their PC or MacBook? So I think that rise of personal conferencing and opening up more spaces is really part of it. To the UI side of things, I completely agree. I think for long enough now in our industry, the way in which end users interact with the technology has been very, very difficult. Whether it's just the remote control that's in the room, you look at the vendors that are out there, the number of buttons that they have on the remote controls is huge. It's going back to the old TV all-in-one days where you've got a single remote control that controls everything. And even some of the overlays that you can put onto there, like AMX and Crestron, that type of thing, they add levels of complexity in rooms that are not always needed. But then transitioning that down into the personal user space as well, so having that similar experience is really, really important. And I think that's the key thing. That's a real big boundary at the moment to adoption, is that simplification of the user interface.
Okay. Tim, maybe we come to you briefly.
Well, at the risk of repeating what the other people have said, I mean, obviously, we've already talked about cloud, user experience, mobility, workflow integration. I totally agree with all of those things. I guess we've got the timeout thing going on there. So,
don't listen
I mean,
to it,
just
you keep going, mate.
just briefly, I can see historically video has often been its own island within organizations, sometimes run by facilities. So bridging of UC islands is the big trend that we're going to see in the next few years that's happening today. So from our point of view, really tight integration with Skype for Business. I can see we've done a lot of integration work there. Skype's sort of business has doubled over the last year. That's on a big growth path. And beyond that, perhaps Google sort of making noises in the market. That could be a future wave to look for. And B2B and business to business, business to consumer video. All of us as an industry need to do a better job of that to make it really pervasive.
James, 10 seconds.
I just think it's usage. I mean, you never question when your daughter wants to Skype you or mine blue jeans me, otherwise I stop their pocket money. But obviously, in your personal lives, you just use video all the time. That's just happening in business now. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. And I'm obviously spoiled because that is our business. But I wouldn't dream of picking up the phone to talk to someone if I'm sitting in front of a laptop. I just wouldn't think of it. And as soon as you get over that first hurdle, it's taking that leap of faith, you stop worrying that your hair's not done or you haven't had a shave in the morning or you're not wearing the right clothes, you're wearing your jeans. You just stop worrying about it, and that's when communication gets so much more easy because there's so much more being transferred when you can see someone than if you're just on the phone, and that'll be adoption.
Mark, a final few words from you.
I think it's definitely pervasiveness. We're going to see it in B2C. We're already seeing huge results from some of the organisations that are doing it. A company that isn't based on our technology, but I'll give you some stats that we saw. Amazon with Amazon Mayday. They're seeing a 30% increase in revenue from people they serve through Mayday. So people are getting value from it. One of the banks we're serving in India, 65% of the customers are coming back to use it again and again. So people are getting value from video. So it's about taking the technology that we've all had in the business for 25 years in your case. But giving them the ability to get that quality across millions of users in whatever they're doing in a day-to-day life.
We're out of time. Apologies, I don't think we have time for questions, but I'm sure the panelists will be around throughout the day as well, so grab them. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you to the panelists as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuff.